Hi, welcome back to the Retirement Pivot. I am Kat Kelly, here to talk about the flip side of some of the things that we think about when we think about retirement. We always think about what's going to change, what's going to be new, what's going to be different. And I wanted today to talk about what things don't change in retirement, what things, are kind of constants we can count on during retirement. And so I thought it'd be interesting to think about, when you're planning for your retirement or if you're in retirement, dealing with some of those things that just are always realities for us. And I think the first one I want to talk about is the fact that you don't change. You are still you. You are still the person who, was working and was, a professional or doing whatever you were doing. I certainly am the same person who, was a union activist when I was in New York. I was an elementary school teacher. Those are all still part of who I am. And so I think one of the things we have to do in retirement is to think about how to honor all the parts of us that maybe in the transition have a hard time finding a home. So for example, obviously I love kids. I was an elementary school teacher for 37 years. I don't have kids. My nieces and nephews are adults and I love them immensely, but they're doing their own thing in their own lives. We see them as much as we can. But one of the things I've done in retirement is that I have become a very part-time nanny / driver for a family in the neighborhood. And they have a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old. And so I'm able to keep in touch with that part of me by spending time with someone else's kids, which is something you can do. You can also volunteer. I do volunteer in an elementary school as well, and I get to still teach in that way. I go once a week and I do a math lesson in a 2nd grade classroom. And that kind of keeps those parts of me sharp and in touch. And so I think honoring that you are still you and feeding all the parts of you in retirement is an important piece. Another thing that I have found that remains the same is that your habits will remain the same. One or two of them will fall by the wayside because they might be very linked to your job. But, my habits are my habits, good, bad, and ugly. And so thankfully in retirement, I've had some time to really work on some of my habits and improve some of the ones I wanted to improve, magnify some of the ones that I enjoy. And I think that that's something to think about, is to think about, what do you want to make bigger in your life? What do you want to make smaller in your life? And take the time to do those things. So that's, you are still you. You still have the same habits. Another thing is your family is still going to be your family. Your friends will still be your friends, although I will say there were some changes in my friendships as I retired, just because some of them were work friends, and that certainly does change. Many of those remained and have become retirement friends. So family is still going to be family. Again, good, bad, and ugly. Mine happens to be pretty much all good. But I'm lucky in that way. We work hard as a family also to maintain those bonds. And that's part of the work that you do in retirement, is to kind of stay connected to family. Family that's far away can be difficult, but in this life, digital age, it's not that difficult, frankly. So family will remain constant, and, staying connected with them is important. Connection is important. Another thing that will stay the same is that the things that have always brought you joy pre-retirement, those things will still bring you joy. They just might be harder to find opportunities for. So again, for example, working with kids brings me joy. Always has. I think kids are amazing. And so I've had to make opportunities or seize opportunities as they've arisen in retirement to connect with that and be able to still have that in my life. And so think about, in your transition, what do you love, and set up your retirement so that you can have some of that. Art brings me joy. I've not done enough art lately, so I'm on a path to try to carve out time and opportunity to do more of my art. I think that's important for me. Some people it's music, for some people it's travel, for some people, it's any number of things. I do love gardening. We've had our first cold snap in Orlando this morning, actually. I have sleeves on. Actually, it did get quite cold last night. So gardening now is going to be about pulling out dead plants and just setting up beds for the winter, to be honest with you. So maybe I'm going to switch from gardening over to my art, and also golf. I have not golfed in over a month, and so I need to get back to that because it does bring me joy. So the things that have always brought you joy will still bring you joy. You'll need to find new ways to get at it. And then the last thing is that health also remains the same. Whatever health issues you had before retirement, unless they were stress related, which some are, you're still going to have that to deal with. Maintaining your health, exercise, nutrition, all of those things, paying attention to that stuff is still important. And I think, is a key part of moving into and transitioning into your retirement. So the 5 things that I think don't change in retirement: you are still you. You still have the habits you had, so good, bad, or ugly, you're going to have to deal with that. Your family remains the same. The things that bring you joy will still bring you joy. And your health and the need to maintain your health also remains the same. So in retirement, make plans for those 5 things. Enjoy the parts of them that you can. And, if there are things that need to change, take the time to do that. The beauty of retirement is you have the time to do that. So that's it for the Retirement Pivot for this week. I will see you next week with a new topic, and I hope you're doing well planning for your retirement if that's where you are, or enjoying your retirement if you're in it now. Have a great week.